Hi everyone, and welcome to a brand new video where I'm going to talk to you guys about something I've been wanting to talk about since last month. And if you recall back in a video I posted early last month that I said I was going to do a video where I predicted something that was going to happen, because if you didn't know, as a longtime Power Rangers fan of 27 years, there were at least 5 things I predicted as a fan long before this stuff actually happened in the present tense. Because long ago, back during like the original Saban era or the Disney era, there were a couple things I've always predicted about that was going to happen as of 2010 or 2012 or 2018, any of the following years when all this stuff actually came to commence to happen. Most of these things I'm going to bring up, the following I'm going to predict, is actually something I have been predicting ever since the post-Zordon era, which consisted of Lost Galaxy through Wild Force. And ever since during that run of Power Rangers, there were some things I predicted long before I was even part of the fandom and long before I was ever on social media that I ever predicted. So here are the top 5 things I predicted that actually came true with the Power Rangers franchise. Not counting what happened on the show or movie or so, but just 5 things that I predicted that actually came true. So I was the one that I actually knew that I was going to be the guy that predicted these 5 things. Okay, at number 5, I predicted it's obvious. I was the one that predicted Power Rangers to air on Nickelodeon someday. And I've been predicting this ever since the Lost Galaxy days of the show, that I was going to be the one that was going to predict the show to air on Nickelodeon. But the only way we had to get to Nickelodeon airing Power Rangers, we had to go through, of course, the Disney era, which consisted of mid to late Wild Force all the way to RPM and the 2010 reversion of Mighty Morphin. And actually, as a matter of fact, I wish that instead of Disney, can you imagine in an alternate universe, if Power Rangers did not air on ABC Family, ABC Kids, or Toon Disney/Jetix, the show would have been on Nickelodeon from the get-go. But again, it was not in the MO because Saban was absent for half of most of the decade of the 2000s to focus on some politic work, which we shouldn't really discuss in that matter, and other business ventures when Haim Saban shut down Saban Entertainment after Time Force was produced. But even during Wild Force and even some of the Disney seasons, I was the one that predicted the show to be on Nickelodeon. But even though if the show was on Nickelodeon back in the 2000s when shows like Avatar, The Last Airbender, and Danny Phantom and Jimmy Neutron was hot and all, Power Rangers would have been fit right there, but no, it wouldn't really fit from that start. And well, if it was on Cartoon Network, it would be a definite hell no. And knowing Cartoon Network, if you remember, like a lot of us 90s, 2000s kids remember with Cartoon Network between 2004 to early 2010 was airing some live action programming, which took up more screen time from their animated programming, which the network, why you think it was called Cartoon Network for a reason. But if the show was on Nickelodeon back in the 2000s, the show would have had a good start. We would still have Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder in them, but no. And if Saban would have never left, or imagine it again in an alternate universe, if Saban still produced the Power Rangers up to 2 years ago with Super Ninja Steel, we would still have the show where it would be. But no, we have to go through the Disney era. As much as I still like the Disney seasons of SPD and Dino Thunder and RPM, but what if the show ended up differently if it was on Nickelodeon? But even though I predicted the whole Power Rangers one day, if Fox Kids wasn't a thing anymore, Nickelodeon would have been an option and Saban would still do Power Rangers. But we had to go through Disney as everything written in stone, history written in stone. Disney had to be the first to own the franchise after Saban sold the franchise to Disney. And then after Disney did the show, then, of course, after they quit the show after RPM and then that 2010 reversion, then Nickelodeon comes in and then we ended up with that dreaded era that I hate. Number 4. This is an obvious dubious one as well. The whole Power Ranger movie reboot thing where, okay, I know that due to this big facade of superhero movies and movies, nostalgic properties going dark and gritty because the days of colors and rainbows with that stuff from our childhoods is like long over. I was the one that I knew that as much as I didn't really care for the series or future movie reboots of the franchise having armored Ranger suits. The 2017 movie was that Power Ranger movie of the modern times to have armored Ranger suits. But even though, again, I'm not really much of a fan of the Ranger suits or anything from the 2017 movie, really, but it was something I predicted and one of my biggest fears was going to happen. Although many people have predicted that a Power Rangers movie reboot before the one we're going to get soon from Hasbro and Paramount, we'll get to Hasbro and Paramount later, where if we had another movie reboot of Power Rangers, it has to be more in line with the TV series. You can have some armor on the suits, but it has to be all spandex, so you have to have a blend of armor and spandex on the suits. But the armor took up most of that, and of course, when we think big budget Hollywood movie rebooted the 2010s and so forth, the Power Rangers, we gotta go with armor, because it worked for several superhero movies of the 2010s and even late 2000s, like The Dark Knight, or the 2010s with Iron Man and somewhat Captain America and Thor with their armored suits, and even Ant-Man and Spider-Man to a degree. But Power Rangers, we have to go with they had to do armored suits. But the end result, what we had in the 2017 movie was, well, what it was. But even though I predicted that, should we do armored suits or should we do armor and spandex or just spandex suits for a movie reboot? But of course, some would perceive that for a more serious movie reboot of the Power Rangers, if they did spandex suits, they would say, no, this still looks like that stupid goofy TV show. If they went with armor, it would sell, but the end result, again, the movie suits that we had from the Lionsgate 2017 movie sucked. So my advice, let's not do armored Ranger suits again, because the Power Rangers have to be armored. The only characters in Power Rangers to remain armored is only Ranger like allies like Blue Centaurian or Magna Defender or Robo Knight or Solaris Knight, not core group Ranger teams, because nothing wrong with flashy, shiny new armor for movie reboots and stuff, but we need to keep it all spandex. That's just how I like to perceive it for all Ranger teams. Okay, if you probably didn't know, number 3, I predicted a particular celebrity that would eventually be in a Power Rangers, anything really. Now, like a lot of celebrities, Hollywood celebrities of the 2000s and 2010s, I was the one that predicted that one day Elizabeth Banks would be in a Power Rangers film. But long ago, back when I was even what I am today, but long ago when I was trying to find my place in the fan base online for the last 10 years, I did fan casted Elizabeth Banks as a Ranger when she was still in her 30s, before she started pushing 40 in like 2014 or something. But as soon as the 2010s rolled in, and when actors that were, hot prime actors in their 20s and 30s in the 2000s, and when they start turning 40 last decade, now those that are turning 50 this decade, if you go by the numbering of the age and how old these actors were getting and how young they were getting. Basically, Elizabeth Banks, one time when I was doing fan casts for my personal Power Ranger fan thing, I used to fan cast Elizabeth Banks as the Pink Ranger. But now that she's over 40, you would think we would see Elizabeth Banks as a villain, like Rita Repulsa from the 2017 movie. But back when I did my Lost Galaxy stuff, I once fan casted her as either the Pink Ranger or as Trakina, but basically neither. But I think she worked it fine as Rita Repulsa in the 2017 film, but again, the 2017 movie was, well, what it was, and don't want to look back on that again. But again, that was one of the few things I predicted before it actually came true in 2016 and 2017. Okay, number 2 is the big one. And if you probably haven't been following what I have been doing in this fan base for the last 10 years, since my days on Ranger Wiki, posting blogs about my magnum opus fan film of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, The Rise of Trakina, and so forth, and for those who now want to know who I am, basically, number 2 is the big one, or second biggest one. I was the one that predicted Hasbro to own the Power Rangers franchise. Because in fact, I was the one that brought up about Hasbro owning the franchise at one point back when Saban, or with the toy license rather. When Haim Saban came back to get the franchise from Disney after the massive, colossal failure that was that 2010 reversion of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, when Haim Saban came back 10 years ago in the form of Saban Brands to reacquire the rights to Power Rangers, one of the few things I wanted to predict even back when I was still doing my fan thing of Lost Galaxy, when I was still in high school 10 years ago. Due to the fact that Bandai America back in 2010 up until 2018, a lot of the stuff for the main line of toys for the show was so good. So I once predicted Hasbro to do the toys for the series since 2010 because the toys for Samurai, Megaforce, Dino Charge Ninja Steel, 2017 movie, and the 2010 reversion were crap. Except the Legacy line, because with the Legacy line, the quality of the stuff then was still decent. For example, the Legacy line was at least decent when we had something like the Legacy White Tiger Zord or one of the Legacy Power Morphers. Basically, while this stuff was fine, this is the Legacy one, by the way, and also Legacy White Tiger Zord, for example. These were some premium, good adult collector products for Power Rangers, even though the main line of toys for the show, like the Legendary Morpher from Super Mega Force, or a lot of the Zord Builder Zords from Samurai through Super Ninja Steel, or the basic action figures they released over the course of the Neo Saban era, they were just garbage to me, in my opinion. So that's why I should have, preferred Hasbro doing Power Rangers earlier. Luckily, and also in terms of Hasbro owning, like right now, the franchise, I predicted Hasbro was going to get the Power Rangers franchise one day from Saban. Even though, because when things were looking grim and dark, I was the one that predicted about Hasbro having Power Rangers, because lately, I was one of those few fans who just didn't like how Saban was handling the series when he and his company came back, and those of the following alums, along with new people running Saban Brands at the time over the last decade, was just how they were running the show and how they had to fall under the contract with Nickelodeon. Even with Hasbro still owning Power Rangers, they're still on contract with Nickelodeon until through at least 2021 accordingly. Even if, depending on what we're dealing with Hasbro and that rumor about them cutting ties with Toei, and we would not have no more Super Sentai shows to adapt for Power Rangers after Dino Fury based on said rumor. But even though I like everything Hasbro is doing so far with the franchise, so that I have been envisioning since 2010, and here we are 10 years later, it's finally come to fruition. And the number one thing I predicted back when Power Rangers, that I predicted with Power Rangers in, throughout the last almost 2 decades since the 2000s. Aside from like with Hasbro, I did predict Paramount Pictures to make a new Power Rangers movie. If you follow my past on Ranger Wiki or something in the past, or whatever I was posting back when I was a stupid, naive person, naive young 20-something or teenager, I had fantasized about Paramount Pictures making a Power Rangers movie for some time, or for a long time. And it's been something I predicted since 2002, and back when we didn't have any new Power Ranger films until the 2017 movie after the Turbo movie was a colossal financial critical failure and caused Power Rangers not to make another feature film in over 2 decades until the 2017 film. Paramount Pictures basically, however, was a film company I always loved with their films and the quality of films, and even with the films they're making now, like with Bumblebee or the upcoming Snake Eyes G.I. Joe film that's supposed to come out, and also some of the Marvel movies they distributed before all the Marvel Cinematic Universe was completely solely done all by Disney. Paramount did do Marvel movies, Iron Man all the way to Iron Man 3, but after that, then Disney took over. But Paramount, that's a film company that should have did a Power Rangers movie a long time ago. Something I have been predicting. I mean, if you remember, for any of those who joked about me making a make-believe Power Rangers movie of any season done by Paramount, I was the guy that predicted Paramount to do a Power Rangers film. I was the one that predicted that. I was calling the shots. I know a lot of people don't want to believe that, but in fact, I was the one that predicted, because with Paramount Pictures, basically, look what even though as much as, you know, their initial Transformers and G.I. Joe movies, which were also by Hasbro, were pretty bad, but at least Hasbro, aka All-Star Pictures can take a stab of doing Power Rangers the right way in film, but have it be more in line with the TV series. Based on a rumor with the upcoming 4th movie we're going to get from Paramount. If this falls through, we'll probably likely see the Paramount Pictures Power Rangers film that even if it's something I didn't ask for, but I mind it. But a long time ago, I have always made fan-made stuff about Power Ranger movies if Paramount Pictures was to have the movie rights to the franchise. But if Saban, you know, back again with the 2017 movie, when that movie was brought up, instead of Lionsgate, they should have went with Paramount to do the film. And if Paramount was to do the 2017 Power Rangers film with Saban, and also Nickelodeon, since the show was airing on Nickelodeon, Nickelodeon's movie division should have helped co-distribute the film as well, along with Saban and Paramount. Something I also have been envisioning since 2002. So that was something I predicted also. So 5 things I predicted that would come true with Power Rangers. Elizabeth Banks being a part of the franchise for a movie or so, Hasbro owning the franchise or doing the toy license or both, the show airing on Nickelodeon, and also Paramount doing a film, and also the movie reboot suit stuff. So what do you guys think about this top 5 video thing I predicted? So this is basically a vlog, but also a top 5 list thing I brought up. So let me know what you think. If you actually like this video, please leave it down, please just subscribe and do so. And if you have a suggestion for a top 5 or top 10 video, drop down in the comments and I'll probably do one in the future, if this succeeds. So anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys with another video like this.